Imam Hussain. In this day and age, we can be sure we're getting it right if we are staying away from two things, inshallah, through Imam Hussain. Number one, Imam Hussain did what he did and gave his muhjah for Allah to save his servants, Allah's servants, from jahala, ignorance. And it doesn't necessarily mean ignorance versus knowledge. Sometimes you have knowledge, but you still have jahala. Jahl and jahala are different. Jahala can refer to more negligence. Sometimes you even have knowledge, but you're not acting upon it. This jahala, Imam Hussain woke people up. He enlightened. He awakened. وَحَيْرَةِ الضَّلَالَةِ. Some people were bewildered, lost in misguidance. Imam Hussain showed them the way. There's another part. It says, وَقَدْ تَزَاوَرَ عَلَيْهِ مَنْ غَرَّتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَبَاعَ حَظَّهُ بِالْأَرْذَلِ الْأَدْنَى وَشَرَى آخِرَتَهُ بِالثَّمَنِ الْأَوْكَسِ. So it's talking about those who went against Imam Hussain. What characteristics did they have? The characteristics they had was, it says, those who were seduced by this worldly life, who sold their share of reward with the lowliest and meanest, retailed their hereafter, in other words, sold their hereafter with the cheapest price, acted haughtily, it says here, perished because of following their desires. So all in all, if Imam Hussain, in a nutshell, gave his muhjah, in a nutshell, the ones who went against him, their life, if you want to sum it all up, these were people who were just losers in the sense of not understanding the value of what they have in this life and selling their akhirah for what Allah has given them in this life, which is life itself. They sold everything of theirs for something that wasn't worth it. They sold their akhirah for what they have in this, for anything of this dunya. Whatever is in this dunya is going to perish eventually. So if I'm going to sell my akhirah, which is eternity, it better be worth it. These 4 lines here are making it clear that it wasn't worth it. So for us today, it's important for us every time we are at that crossroad of wajib and haram. In a sense, we have a little tiny incy-wincy Karbala happening. Am I going to give whatever I have in the way of Allah, or am I going to sell akhirah? That share of akhirah, because of that sin at least, that much of my akhirah at least, am I willing to sell it for a low price? The ziyarah goes on, it talks about how Imam Hussain fought these enemies of Allah. Jahadahum fiqh sabiran muhtasiba. These sacrifices that we want to make, it's not like it's going to be sweet as honey. Unless we've reached a certain level of ma'rifah that we can say it's sweeter than honey, but who are we kidding? At the end of the day, it's going to be bitter. So it takes sabr. We have to understand that sabr is part of it. Sabiran, and we have to have the right perspective as well. Muhtasiba. Muhtasiba means that it comes from hisab, being calculative. If I have gotten the math correctly and understand that the akhirah is worth more than the dunya, it's going to be easy for me. It's going to be doable and feasible at least for me to make those sacrifices and not be like these people who sold their akhirah for their dunya. So Imam Hussain, he did what he did. Sabiran muhtasiban. Sabiran means in practice he was patient, and intellectually speaking, he had the right outlook. He was doing hisab, calculating for himself, yes, this is worth it. The akhirah, if I am able to secure it for what I'm doing, then it's worth it. Ashura is going to be a day, it'll be over. Maybe Zainab 2 years later passed away. 100 years later we're going to die. Whenever it is, if we're muhtasib, we say, okay, it's worth it because we figured it out. I'll end with this right here. It says, وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ أُمَّةً سَمِعَتْ بِذَلِكَ فَرَضِيَتْ بِهِ. That may Allah's curse be upon those who found out and heard about Ashura later on. And so when they heard about it, they were happy with it. They were okay with it. They were satisfied and pleased with it. Allahumma inna hadha yawmun tabarrakat bihi banu Umayyah wa hadha yawmun farahat bihi alu Ziyad. These people, some of them weren't there on Ashura, but when they heard about it, they were happy. And this goes back to that Quranic principle. The Qawm Salih, the people of Salih, one of them hamstrung the camel of Salih, but everyone paid the price because the rest were okay with it. And so also this is a wake-up call for us as well, that if we can't do anything about anything that's happening, the least is that we're not okay with it. The least is we take as many steps to prevent that as possible. With that, let us begin this ziyarah, inshallah. Recite salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام على ولي الله وحبيبه، السلام على خليل الله ونجيبه، السلام على صفي الله وابن صفيه، السلام على الحسين المظلوم الشهيد، السلام على أسير الكربات وقتيل العبرات. اللهم إني أشهد أنه وليك وابن وليك وصفيك وابن صفيك، الفائز بكرامتك، أكرمته بالشهادة وحبوته بالسعادة واجتبيته بطيب الولادة وجعلته سيدا من السادة وقائدا من القادة وذائدا من الذادة، وأعطيته مواريث الأنبياء وجعلته حجة على خلقك من الأوصياء، فأعذر في الدعاء ومنح النصح وبذل مهجته فيك ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. وقد توازر عليه من غرته الدنيا وباع حظه بالأرذل الأدنى وشرى آخرته بالثمن الأوكس وتغطرس وتردى في هواه وأسخطك وأسخط نبيك وأطاع من عبادك أهل الشقاق والنفاق وحملة الأوزار المستوجبين النار، فجاهدهم فيك صابرا محتسبا حتى سفك في طاعتك دمه واستبيح حريمه. اللهم فلعنهم لعنا وبيلا وعذبهم عذابا أليما. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الأوصياء، أشهد أنك أمين الله وابن أمينه، عشت سعيدا ومضيت حميدا ومت فقيدا مظلوما شهيدا، وأشهد أن الله منجز ما وعدك ومهلك من خذلك ومعذب من قتلك، وأشهد أنك وفيت بعهد الله وجاهدت في سبيله حتى أتاك اليقين، فلعن الله من قتلك ولعن الله من ظلمك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. اللهم إني أشهدك أني ولي لمن والاه وعدو لمن عاداه، بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك المدلهمات من ثيابها، وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المسلمين ومعقل المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع ونصرتي لكم معدة حتى يأذن الله لكم فمعكم لا مع عدوكم صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وأجسادكم وشاهدكم وغائبكم وظاهركم وباطنكم آمين يا رب العالمين. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه. If you would like, you can recite 2 rak'ah salat here, it says as well, and do dua after. Inshallah, after that we'll begin Salat al-Maghrib.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله، لا إله إلا الله. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا يصلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
الله أكبر، الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. حي على الصلاة، حي على الصلاة، حي على الفلاح، حي على الفلاح، حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر، لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. Brothers and sisters, this is a request for dua said. Let's recite 5 times the Majib. May Allah give shifa to all, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء. 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 أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه يكشف السوء برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. There is a request for Surah Fatiha for brother Abul Hassan, who he passed away in Pakistan, and he was my cousin's husband, and also include all of your marhumin also with a loud salawat Allah. Sisters, there is also a request for Surah Fatiha for marhumin of brother Wajah Siddiqui and his family marhumin with a loud salawat Allah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله أشهد أن عليا ولي الله وأنه حجة الله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر أستغفر الله الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده الله أكبر بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربي الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. سبحان الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على وآل محمد. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. تطبيقات منتظرة. السلام الله عليها.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم إني أسألك مجيبة رحمتك وعديم مغفرتك ونجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة ورضوان في دار السلام بجوار نبيك محمد عليه وعليه السلام اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك برحمة أرحم الراحمين آمين رب العالمين وصلى الله عليه محمد وآل أهل البيت الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد. So students, inshallah, we'll do the ziyarat after Matam. If you can please help us out and set up the hall for the program. Wa Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد. Mu'mineen, I would like to request everybody to come forward, please, because we're expecting a lot of Mu'mineen today, inshallah. So please come a little forward. And now I would like to invite Brother Michael Hassan for the recitation of the Holy Quran to start the program. Brother Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العلي العظيم.
I would now like to invite Brother Ayan Rojani for the recitation of Salam. Bawaz Buland Salawat.
محمد و آل محمد صلوات. आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना डरती है मेरी बच्ची डरती है मेरी बच्ची लोगों न भुला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना मकतल में लड़ाई को जाते हो अगर आका मकतल में लड़ाई को जाते हो अगर आका तुम पहल सकीना को तुम पहल सकीना को सीने पे सुला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना जाएगी मदीना तो याद आएगा बानों को जाएगी मदीना तो याद आएगा बानों को बच्ची को दिखाना और बच्ची को दिखाना और पानी का बहा देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना गर शाम के जिंदा में मर जाए सकीना तो गर शाम की जिंदा में मर जाए सकीना तो राहों में सकीना की राहों में सकीना की तुम कब्र बना देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना जिंदा में सकीना को याद आए जो बाबा की जिंदा में सकीना को याद आए जो बाबा की ज़ैनब से तुम अपनी ज़ैनब से तुम अपनी गोदी में सुला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना शाह कहते थे बोझों से देना न मुझे पानी शाह कहते थे बोझों से देना न मुझे पानी तुम अपने ही हाथों से तुम अपने ही हाथों से असग़र को पिला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना आकर कोई जिंदा में एक शम्मा जला देना बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु
बारह दीगर सलवात आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन तेरा चेहरा तेरी आँखें भूल कब पाई हुसैन आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन चलते नाक़े से गिराया खुद को जलती रेत पर चलते नाक़े से गिराया खुद को जलती रेत पर घुटनियों के बल में तेरी लाश तक आई हुसैन। बस मैं घबराई थी खंजर तुझ पे चलता देख कर। बस मैं घबराई थी खंजर तुझ पे चलता देख कर। फिर किसी मुश्किल में घिर कर मैं ना घबराई हुसैन। कौन था जो मारने वालों में ना था खूबरू। कौन था जो मारने वालों में ना था खूबरू। भूलने बैठी तो किस किस की ना याद आई हुसैन। बह रहे थे आँख से आंसू तेरी रुखसत के वक्त। बह रहे थे आँख से आंसू तेरी रुखसत के वक्त। फिर कोई आंसू न टपका आँख पथराई हुसैन। हाथ में कूजे लिए सब आसमां तक ते रहे। हाथ में कूजे लिए सब आसमां तक ते रहे। अब्र ने एक बूंद पानी की न बरसाई हुसैन। आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन। तेरा चेहरा तेरी आँखें भूल कब पाई हुसैन। आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन। पर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु। Mu'mineen, you are please requested to please come forward a little so that there's space for Mu'mineen who are coming in afterwards. Bawaz-e buland salawat. Bare digar salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. खाके शिफा थी जिसके तने पाक का कफन। खाके शिफा थी जिसके तने पाक का कफन। चहलुम है उस गरीब का करबो बला में आज। The martyr whose body the sands of Karbala shrouded. The martyr whose body the sands of Karbala shrouded. Today is the chahlum of the same Mawla Hussain alayhi salam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Respected Shaykh Amin, elders, brothers and sisters in faith, Assalamu alaikum. As our mourning comes to an end, we will continue with Labaik Ya Hussain in our hearts. May Imam Zamana Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu accept our contributions. May we all get the chance again and again to visit Karbala, inshallah, and chant Labaik Ya Hussain with the golden dome in front of our eyes, inshallah. Our programs and event here are only possible with the support of our sustaining members and program sponsors. May Allah accept your contributions. For details on how to become a CFK sustaining member or a program sponsor, please contact our membership director, Brother Asif Patel. Join the CFK WhatsApp group or visit ckdfw.org. Let us now recite a Surah Fatiha and 3 times Surah Ikhlas for the marhumin of tonight's sponsors. Marhumin of Brother Mir Ali and family, Marhum Pyar Ali Patel, and the marhumin of Brother Asif, Sister Zainab Patel and family, Marhum Sayyid Taqi Jafri, Marhuma Hur Jafri, Marhum Sayyid Mustafa Hussain, the marhumin of Brother Abid Abidi and family, the marhumin of Sister Zahra Ali and family, the marhumin of Brother Rehan Jafri and family, the marhumin of Brother Mazhar, Sister Mehnaz Abbas and family, the marhumin who don't have anyone to pray for them, all our marhumin and the marhumin of the Ummah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Let us please add the marhumin of Brother Wajad Siddiqui and family to the list of our marhumin for Fatiha. Once again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Just a few announcements and that's it for tonight. Our young Azadars, the Scouts Troop 1499, have created a model of Karbala on display here. After the program concludes, we will make room for the brothers to see this extraordinary rendering, inshallah. CFK is accepting donations for the aid of our Afghan refugee brothers and sisters. The contributions collected are scheduled to be forwarded to Comfort Aid International and DFW Refugee Outreach Services after Arbaeen, inshallah. For details on how to make the donation, please visit our CFK WhatsApp group. We also have a visiting alim, inshallah, Shaykh Trent Carl, next week scheduled to make speeches. For details, the details for the programs will be forwarded over our CFK WhatsApp group. Before I ask the Shaykh to ascend the member, I would like to request everybody to please come a little more forward. There's a lot more room here in the front, so that we have more space in the back for mu'mineen who are to come. Par Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Bring it up. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Before I begin, I just want to thank the younger brothers and sisters that have been coming these nights. Alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to have you all amongst us, really. And inshallah, Imam Hussain takes your hand, well, he has taken your hand, holds on, and we hold on to his hand. His hand is always stretched out to us, inshallah. I say this to the brothers and the sisters. Last night we started a little, I'll speak louder, you don't have to turn it up. Last night we started a topic, and I wasn't able to finish it last night. Inshallah, tonight we will finish it. And I will go over just the main points that I covered last night as well, inshallah. And that had to do with this whole idea of, okay, we see Imam Hussain, what he did has lasted till today. Nothing can get in the way of it. And when we look around us, we see that there's a lot going on, but why is it that there's one thing out there that has lasted this long? Other things similar to it don't last long. They haven't lasted long. I gave examples last night. I'll go through them very quickly again tonight. What are those main ingredients, those secret ingredients? But they're not so secret. They're things that we know as well. But we find them at the highest level in the story of Imam Hussain, which makes that story eternal, renders it everlasting. So that we can take inspiration from that in the work that we do today as followers of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, so that the work we do for Islam, that we do for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it also is everlasting and lasts for a long time, so that we can also reap the rewards in the akhirah. The more people benefit from our Islamic work in this life, the more we're going to benefit as well. Man sanna sunnatan hasanatan. You have the famous hadith that says, whoever establishes a good sunnah, then that person gets the reward of that and the reward of those who act upon that sunnah. And it makes sense. I think this is common sense. And the flip side also holds, by the way. Man sanna sunnatan sayyi'atan. Whoever establishes something bad and evil, then yes, the wizr and burden of that, in addition to the burden of those who act upon that bad sunnah, is going to be on the one who started the whole thing. Okay, so last night we went through two of those ingredients. They were pretty detailed. The first, what had to do with Allah's will. What Imam Hussain did, alayhi salam, was in line with Allah's will. In other words, what Imam Hussain did was just carry out what Allah had willed. Now, because it was such a great task, when Imam Hussain lines his will up with the will of Allah, that's going to do wonders, because it's a big task. For us, for a person like me, I need to align my will with Allah's will, with the wajib and haram of every day. Even that's going to do wonders. Because at the end of the day, it's not about us, it's about that special ingredient, which is Allah. If Allah is in the picture, good things happen. Alhamdulillah, or whatever astaghfirullah, alhamdulillah, whatever you want to say, we have not been tasked with what Imam Hussain was tasked with. I'm going to say alhamdulillah because I would not go through with it, I'm sorry. And Allah knows that. That's why I wasn't chosen for that job. Yeah? But the least expectation, Imam Hussain did what he did so we can follow his footsteps, at least in the little sacrifices that we have to make. Really, they're little compared to what even others are going through in this life right now, today, across the globe. Correct? So that's the first ingredient, lining up my will with Allah's will. Imam Hussain did that. The only difference is what he lined his will with Allah was something huge, unprecedented, unmatched, and you will never have anything like it. And when I say you'll never have anything like it, because of the whole package, you'll never have that package anymore. It's very interesting. We'll have some lines of poetry in the end, in Farsi, where it says that, look, there will be another Imam Hussain that will come, which is Imam Mahdi, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajul Sharif, inshallah. But there's not going to be a brother like Abbas that will come with it. That was just, what happened on Ashura is special. Okay? That package was big. Alright, so that's number one, Allah's will. Number two, ikhlas. Ikhlas, ikhlas, ikhlas. There's a couple of stories I didn't mention last night. I'll share them tonight. Something we have to be very careful about. There was one hadith I really liked, I mentioned last night. The hadith said that the amal is easier than refining the amal with ikhlas. The good deed that you do is hard sometimes, but making sure that that intention is pure is harder according to that hadith. It's harsher, harder, heavier, ashad, from some shadid. All right. I want to share a couple of stories here. One of them, if you've noticed, I don't know, check it out if you can on YouTube and stuff. Ayatollah Bahjat, when he prays salat, lots of times, I've seen this a ton of times. I didn't know this until my mom brought it up to me, actually. May Allah bless her, she's back home. Home, way across the globe, back home. She told me, she said, because those were the days that, I was very much more spiritual than what I am now. I'm horrible right now. But back then, we would do a lot more worship and stuff. You would see the greats on the streets even. What more inspiration could you ask for and motivation, right? All right. She was like, you guys are doing a lot of namaz and stuff. I don't want a mark to be on your forehead. Now, before I go on, I'm going to say this. Doesn't mean if someone has a mark on their forehead, it's bad. Okay? Or that they're after riyah and showing off. No, not at all. Okay? We had a friend in Hawza. He was actually a really good person, a very spiritual person. And he had like a big mark on his forehead. One time I asked him, he was my classmate. I said to him, like, what is up with this? Like, you'd probably do a lot of sajda. He's like, no, man, everyone thinks it's because of my spirituality. When I was a kid, I got hit in the head with a stone. It left a mark. Everyone thinks I'm super spiritual. Anyway, Allah Bahjat, my mom brought this up. And later on, I noticed that he had said this actually. Every time he comes out from sajda, or almost every time, you notice he rubs his head like this. Why? To get the blood flowing a little bit. He doesn't want it to like leave a mark at all. Because Allah can see. The Quran says, "Simahum fi wujuhihim min athar sujud," that there's a mark that you see from the sajda that they do. But in the akhirah, there's a light maybe that shines or something. Some people take this a little too literal. There are some people who might struggle with this. It's a very basic thing, but they would like it to like leave him. No, don't worry about these things. Allah's watching, Allah sees. Allah Bahjat rubs this forehead of his for that purpose. Yeah, I've seen him actually say this. It's recorded. Another story I want to mention is Shaykh Abbas Qumi that we spoke about last night, correct? Shaykh Abbas Qumi, the author of Mafatihul Janan. I read a story years ago. I just remembered tonight actually. I was like, let me share that. About ikhlas again. Ikhlas, sincerity, doing things only for Allah. Those of you who have been to Mashhad, man, I miss Mashhad by the way. Inshallah, we go again and again. There are two domes, the Dome of Imam al-Rida and Masjid al-Gohar Shad, it's called, correct? That's a very old masjid. It has a history itself. And he says, I was leading salat there. He was visiting Mashhad. He didn't live in Mashhad, but he was visiting. And for a time they asked him, can you lead salat? He says, one time when I was leading, there's people who catch up, they get to the salat late, right? So they're like, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. So the Imam has to slow down in ruku so they can join, right? He says that one time when I was leading salat there, I noticed that there are some people saying, Ya Allah, Inna Allah ma'as sabirin. They say that. They give you that guilt. The Imam, like, Imam, if you get up from your ruku', you are not of the sabirin. Inna Allah ma'as sabirin. Allah is with the sabirin. In other words, if you get up before I make it, you're not of the sabirin. But the thing is, it's not just me. There's 100 other people also. Yeah. Anyway, he says, I heard the Ya Allah, and I could tell it's from far away. I was like, and he says something went through my heart that moment. You know what he said to himself? He said, I thought to myself, wow, look at the crowd that is behind me praying. A big crowd, or else I wouldn't be hearing this from like far away, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Maybe there's 1,000 people behind me. That was enough for him after finishing Maghrib Salat to get up and leave and not lead Jama'ah for Isha. Wow. You remember I said this last night, that if I can't refine the intention, let someone else do it. Let someone else do the act. Don't worry about it. Allah's deen isn't going to be lost if I don't do that act. If I can't refine my intention, I'm going to be the one at loss. Allah, Shaykh Abbas Qumi, kuja miri? Shaykh Abbas Qumi, kahan hai? Where are you? Where are you going? You have to lead salat. He's like, no, I'm not sure if I am allowed to lead salat because of this thought that came to my mind. Now, that's him, of course. We don't have to get too obsessive about these things, but what I'm trying to highlight here is that ikhlas is what pushes things forward, or else it's an uphill battle. It's just not going to work. Barakat will go. No matter what you're doing, it's just not going to work. Recite a salawat. Another one of the ingredients that I talked about last night, the last one, was that this movement of Imam Hussain was led by a ma'soom. When it is led by a ma'soom, everything is going to be the way it's supposed to be. And it just shows the difference. Sometimes some of us might act like, we know what we're doing. Okay, we try our best. But yeah, there will be mistakes that are made. We have to understand that. So that if someone's not going to necessarily agree with me the way I'm doing things, I don't say, oh, you're against Islam. Who are you to represent Islam? We're all fallible beings. Yeah? This one, though, had an imam leading it. That's why we see the rewards of it, the fruits of it. We see it till today. Or else there were so many movements. I skipped one of the movements that I listed last night. You have Abdullah bin Handala. You have the Tawabin. The Tawabin, it didn't work. I'm sorry. Yeah, you have all of these movements: Zayd bin Ali, Yahya bin Zayd, Hussain ibn Ali, Shaheed of Fakh. All of these people, nothing in the end. No one remembers them. But with Imam Hussein, it was different. Although some of them were killed the exact same way Imam Hussein was killed. All right, let's move on to tonight now. What we want to talk about: the different elements in this story, the variety, just how Imam Hussein, like, he has everything in there for anybody who wants to relate to any aspect of this movement. All right? You look at the faces, you see new faces. Hur bin Yazid, oh, welcome. You were on Yazid's side, it's all good. You come on our side. So I'm a new face to the community, so what? Old faces, Habib bin Mudahir, Muslim bin Awsaja, these people. Converts, Wahab, yes? Different colors of people. Yeah? They say Joan and these ones. All right, so everybody is there. Age-wise, also, you have it all. Habib is old. Qasim is young. Abdullah bin Hassan. Everyone, they're the young, old, 13-year-old, 18-year-old, 10-year-old, 6-month-old. He has everything in there for everybody to be able to relate to it. To the extent that, I mean, this is when Allah is the planner. Look how beautiful it's planned. On the night of Ashura, they were going to attack. Imam Hussein said, give us a little opportunity till tomorrow. I personally think there was some philosophy here as well. Not just that Imam Hussein says, I want to spend the night in worship, that he wanted to do that as well. But think about it. In the nighttime, you can't even see what's going on. Nothing will be recorded properly. It'll be over in a heartbeat. And then it'll be forgotten. Imam Hussein says, let's wait till tomorrow. If you're not going to do anything, give us that opportunity. And then tomorrow, when they have that initial attack and tens die on the side of Imam Hussein, still, he manages to figure it out in a way that he's able to send them one by one. So each tragedy is a tragedy of its own. Here today, we sit, the first 10 days, we talk about each of these shuhada. There's so much to talk about. If it happened all of a sudden and it was over, we wouldn't have. This is all the plan of Allah. So when you line things up with Allah's will, the plan of Allah is going to work. It's going to take effect. But you have to have ikhlas. Imam Hussein is the pinnacle of ikhlas. And so when all of that happens and Imam Hussein is leading the way, you have this. You have the women, Zainab alayhi salam, the wife of Zuhair. Right? You have these ones who pushed forward the ones who didn't want to come. And if they didn't come, they themselves went. Bibi Zainab, of course, Abdullah bin Ja'far didn't come for whatever reason it was. Bibi Zainab still came. Zuhair wasn't sure, should I not? His wife pushed him to go. You've seen Mukhtar Nameh, probably some of you. You've seen that part. She forces him to go. Forces him meaning convinces him to go. But in the beginning, she had to use some force. And so there's so many lessons in here. Wahab, they say the only female shaheed of Karbala who went and died with her husband fighting. Yeah? All of this, you have all of that. You have people that weren't like proper Shia. Zuhair himself, was he proper Shia? No, there was no Shia Sunni back then, of course, but in the sense that we have it today. But what you did have was Uthmanis, they called them back then. You know what that means? That means a person who says that what happened to Uthman and all of that was wrong. They're on that side. Zuhair is one of them. He's famous for that. He's on the side in the camp of Imam Hussein. So anyone, the one who's committed big sins, whatever, everyone has something to relate to on Ashura and in the army of Karbala. And so this is another thing that we have that we don't find elsewhere. Usually movements it just has people that are like-minded. That's it. This has everyone in it because this is the beauty of Ahl Kisa, brothers and sisters. The Panjatan, these 5 were very, very special. Imam Hussein knows this. So he's able to bring everybody in. It's so beautiful. The barakat of these 5. And of course, he's the last one. So this is the last opportunity, by the way. Imam Sajjad could not have done what Imam Hussein did on Ashura. He could not have brought in those that Imam Hussein brought in. The next one, the next element, pure haqq. I've said this again and again. Ashura embodies pure haqq versus pure batil. Haqq, this is just what haqq is all about. Wherever there is haqq, you will have everlastingness. The Quran says, قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقِّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Say, O Prophet, tell them, haqq has come. And so batil is going to leave now. إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. Batil is always going to be going out, is everlasting. Haqq, in one way or another, is connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the haqq. And so however much our actions, our deeds and endeavors enjoy haqq, inshallah, to that extent they enjoy everlastingness. And then here I am mixing it up with whatever other intentions I have, and I say, how come I didn't get famous? How come this? How come that? It's not about these things. And it's going to be harder in this day and age when you're even praying. Sometimes you take a selfie, you put it up online, right? Like, people got to know what I'm doing. No, I would say ikhlas and haqq, they come hand in hand. Another matter to discuss when it comes to this haqq though, is that just because you're on haqq doesn't necessarily mean, yes, that, I wanted to say this. This is an important point. That haqq and ikhlas, although they come hand in hand, we have to be careful. These are two different things. Yes? If there's haqq, ikhlas has to be there. But if ikhlas is there, it doesn't necessarily mean haqq is also there. Going back to what we talked about us being fallible beings. Imam Ali in Nahj al-Balagha, he says something, sometimes you're like, Imam Ali, are you taking the side of the Khawarij? As if. He says it. He says they have ikhlas. He says in Nahj al-Balagha, anyone has a problem with that? Go see what Nahj al-Balagha says. He's calling out Muawiyah to show where Muawiyah stands on that spectrum of haqq versus batil. He talks about the Khawarij. Imam Ali. He says the Khawarij, what their problem was, they aimed for haqq, they missed it. They missed the target. That means ikhlas. They're after the haqq, they missed the target. And so what is that? That makes them wrong, but they still had ikhlas, according to that. Now, of course, I don't know if it'll be accepted because, Imam Ali, the haqq himself is in front of you. Come on. But the point I'm trying to make is this. He says that Muawiyah, though, he aimed for batil and he hit the target in the middle of the eye, in the middle of the forehead, between the eyebrows. Yes? So we just have to remember this all the time. Just because I have ikhlas doesn't mean haqq is going to come with it. Yes, if I have haqq and everything, part of haqq is ikhlas. But vice versa? No. Right now, the Maraji, for example. Regarding moon sighting, let's say. Are they both on haqq? The one that says if it's sighted like this, and no, one of them is wrong for sure. But they both have ikhlas, it'll be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. I just want to highlight this again. Just remember, brothers and sisters, it's not just ikhlas either. We have to do our due diligence to figure out what we're supposed to do in different scenarios. Alright, so let's move on to the next one now. So far, what do we have? Let me see. We have Allah's will, we have ikhlas, we have the movement was led by an imam, we have the different elements that we have in this movement. We have haqq, we have Lady Zainab and Imam Sajjad. It doesn't matter how great a job you do, how great a sacrifice you make. If that is not promoted properly and not explained properly, it'll just go down the drain. And so this is another part of Allah's plan. Think about it. Imam Hussain, no matter how hard, if he had tried, do you think he would have been able to make it to the heart of the enemy in Sham? Into the belly of the beast itself in Sham? No, they would have stopped him before coming. They stopped him before getting to Kufa, let alone Sham. And so what we get out of this is that apparently this is part of the plan for Imam Hussain to make his way as close as he can, to become shaheed, so that the enemy himself takes Zainab alayhi salam and Sajjad alayhi salam into Sham. So then they have that platform, they have that microphone, so to speak, to expose, to the point that Yazid, till yesterday, he's all gloating and he's all proud, and all of a sudden he's sending his la'nat on Ubaydullah bin Ziyad. And then he says, take these prisoners back, give them whatever they want, take them back, just get them out of here. And still they say when Bibi Zainab went back, she was causing trouble for the hukuma in those 2 years. That's one of the reasons some believe that one of the evidences they have for Bibi Zainab being buried in Sham is that she was sent in exile. Why? Because she wasn't keeping silent. Imam Sajjad is different. But Bibi Zainab did her thing. Just like Bibi Fatima, Imam Ali was not as loud as Bibi Fatima because they had different responsibilities in what happened after Saqifa. Same thing here. All right, so with Imam Sajjad, 34 years, he is not holding big majalis or anything, but every opportunity he gets, he will explain Karbala, he will explain Ashura, he will hold majlises to the extent he can, even if it means it's a one-person majlis kind of, where he brings up Imam Hussain in front of others. Anything he sees, food, drink, animals being slaughtered, he will bring up Imam Hussain. So that's another element. And says a lot to us, There will be, sometimes there's a lot of work that we're doing, we're not promoting it properly, not explaining it properly to people, it goes to waste. And then others will say, oh, Maulana, you should do more. No, it's not about doing more. It's about what? It's about reaching out, branching out, letting people know what's going on. Or else, if I double the amount of work I'm doing, but if I'm not getting it out there properly, what's that mean? That just means the drain is going to clog, but everything's going down the drain at the end of the day. You have to be smart and efficient about things as well. If I'm doing one thing, in this day and age where I have no choice but to have some voice on social media, I will blow it up as much as I can, so that it reaches the people it's supposed to reach. Back then, they used the tools they had, poetry and whatnot. Imam Sajjad uses every opportunity. That's what I'll do. Recite a salawat. Yes, which brings me to the last four. And these are the tools now that I think that Allah set there. I talked a little bit about last night, but I want to get into some of the hadiths in this regard and some of the stories we have. What were the tools? Number 1, majalis. Number 2, tears. Number 3, his turba even, the dust from his grave. And finally, his ziyarah and his grave. I want to share with you some of the stories and some of the hadiths we have in this regard to show us that, when Allah gives it the magical touch, yes, that is different than whatever else is out there. The majalis, the importance of majalis. I have a few stories here that I've heard scholars in Iran, they speak about. There's tons of stories. And you see some of the posts that we have online as well in regards to some of these stories. Ayatollah Udma Gul Payegani. I'm trying to make a point with these stories here, okay? Because in all of these stories, you'll notice that it's not a big majlis. Although it's in the 21st century. It's not a big majlis though. What am I trying to get to here? I'm trying to make a point here of how important these majalis are, even if it's 2 people. Ayatollah Gul Payegani, I haven't seen the video, but this scholar was saying that there's a video of it. Ayatollah Udma Gul Payegani. You know what that's like? That's like Ayatollah Wahid Khurasani of today. Huge. Like Ayatollah Sistani of today. Okay? It says that there's a video of him doing a majlis with his family. Why? Of course they want the thawab of it, but more importantly, they know that this is what's kept it alive. Imam Sajjad did it with few people. If I can only get few people, I don't know what the circumstances were back then, that he was doing it with his family, but it's like, in other words, it's not like he's not doing anything. Or another story, he says that Rasuli Mahallati, he's a person, he's passed away. He says that he comes to Imam Khomeini. He tells Imam Khomeini, there's somebody out there, they've made a nazr. Yes, that oath that you make or that vow you make with Allah that you're going to do something. Not the other nazr. Nazr. That they're going to have a majlis and you're going to be in it. Imam Khomeini is like, I didn't ask for it. Like, what is this? So Imam Khomeini says, it's okay. No problem. Recite. He says, but there's no majlis. He says, no, I'm here. Recite. He says, I started reciting. Imam Khomeini began weeping. That's our majlis. I'm not going to wait for it to ever let's see if it happens, if we're able to facilitate it or not. Okay, a person has a nazr, they want to do this. This is a majlis. What does majlis literally mean when you sit down? We're sitting, we're hearing the Messiah of Imam Hussain. This one I like a lot. Shaykh Qaraati, those of you who know him, you know him. He's famous, right? Shaykh Qaraati, he says, years ago, 40 years ago or so, he says, I was in Mozambique. I don't know what he's doing there, but he was there. He says, we weren't able to get a flight back to Iran, all that, and so Ashura, turns out I'm going to be in Mozambique, of all places. 40 years ago. Now there might be Shia there, but 40 years ago, he says, there were no Shia there. So he says, I got stuck there. I asked on the night of Ashura if there are any majlises. They said there aren't any Shias here. But there's this one guy who has a little shop who sells halal food stuff. Yeah? This is like 30 years ago, guys. Like, this is how we lived the life here, the halal life in America. 30 years ago, there was no halal restaurants. Growing up in North Carolina, we had to drive all the way to Washington, D.C., Maryland to get our hands on some halal chicken. That's how it was back then. You had to go to the auction. I'm saying this for the younger ones to understand what the blessings we have today. We had to go to the auction. I've said this story to some of you probably before. Go to the auction and get a calf, because you can't fit a cow in the trunk. You get a calf. The guy asks you, I remember when I went with my dad. Allah give him health and a long life, inshallah. These are the sacrifices they made for all of us, for us to have a halal meal. All right? I still remember the guy's like, okay, you want this calf? All right, you got it? All right. And so you buy the calf. The guy's like, so you want me to put a bullet in its head? And my dad's like, we need this one alive. And the guy's like, all right, whatever. I don't know about these Muslims, but here, take it. And I still remember like the car swerving left and right on the highway. My dad said he got pulled over by the cops once, actually. So that we can have halal meat. And where does all this happen? It happens in the backyard. You know what I'm talking about, right? All right, so, and we have to do it when Dylan isn't going to be visiting us to play with me. Dylan, the boy next door. I still remember his name. All right, so, all this for halal meat. He says that they told me there's one Shia guy here who sells halal stuff. He has like a little shop, a little supermarket, whatever. He says, I went and asked him if there were any majlises in the city. He said no. But from the beginning of Muharram, every night I recite for my family at home. How did Imam Hussain, the story of Imam Hussain survive? Because of these things. I recite for my family at home. Qara'ati, he says, I said I'm going to come, and so I went, and this brother would recite, and his family would mourn. So during COVID, we got a taste of that, by the way. We had our little majlises at home. Yes. We had a lot, alhamdulillah, for the internet. Yes. And so we alhamdulillah, it wasn't like, it was a good experience, I would say. It might have strengthened us a lot more than we think when it comes to our resolve for Imam Hussain alayhi salam. So that's another one. The fact that these majalis keep happening. And so you can't stress it enough. The importance of these majalis. The tears. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I've spoken about this before in length. The tears and how man baka wa abka wa tabaka, the one who cries, the one who makes others cry, the one who can't cry but at least acts like they're crying. All of these people, what blessings are awaiting them in the hadiths we have. There are too many for us to deny them, these hadiths. His turba now. I want to share a couple hadith about his turba. The sand, or as they call it, the khaki shifa of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. It says here that Bibi Fatima, salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, oh yes, please. Thank you. It says that she كانت صبحتها من خيوط صوف مفتل. She had a tasbih. But look at how her tasbih was back then, her subha, right? It was a yarn, let's call it, that she had made knots in. So those are like lumps that you have in the yarn so you can count. And so it's 34 knots. If there's any mustahab, I would suggest, brothers and sisters, the little stuff that goes a long way this is one of them. Tasbihat al-Zahra, okay? 34 times Allahu Akbar, 33 times Alhamdulillah, 33 times Subhanallah after every wajib salat. Don't miss out on it. Those little things that make a big difference sometimes. Anyway, she would use that. But then when Hamza Sayyid al-Shuhada becomes shaheed, it says that she made a subha from the dust of his grave. And then it goes on to say that after Imam Hussain was killed, the people who were following this sunnat of Bibi Fatima, they shifted over to Imam Hussain because of the benefits that the dust of Imam Hussain has. Well, what are those? So people have asked, and other hadith we find this. It says, that Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was asked عن استعمال التربتين. He was asked, which one of the two should we use? The turba from Imam Hussain alayhi salam or from Hamza Sayyid al-Shuhada? Look at the wording. Look at how beautifully he answers. He doesn't say this one's better than the other. He just mentions one of the benefits of Imam Hussein's turba. It's just beautiful. He says, look, الصبح التي من طين قبر الحسين تسبح بيد الرجل من غير أن يسبح. Let me just tell you that this tasbih that is made from the turba of Imam Hussain does tasbih and glorification of Allah even if the person is not actually doing that. So you do the math, the ukhrawi math. I personally believe that, alhamdulillah, today we have access to have these tasbihs in your home. These fidget things that kids have and whatever's, man, I was thinking about it, like even they got us even there, guys. They got us even there. You know why? Look at this next hadith. من عن الصادق عليه السلام قال من أدار صبحة من تربة الحسين مرة واحدة بالاستغفار أو غيره كتب الله له 70 مرة. If a person takes this tasbih and says an istighfar with it, it multiplies by 70 the tasbih of Imam Hussain, the tasbih that's come from the turba of Imam Hussain. And that sajda on it tears the 7 veils. Then they've explained that means that this salat makes its way up, inshallah. But when I say fidget stuff, it's because of this one right here. What if I'm not saying anything with it, I'm just holding on to it, and I'm just playing with it? Now the wording isn't playing, it says adara, meaning turning it. You know, have you seen these lecturers, they're always holding a tasbih, and they're like, as they're speaking, I can't do that, but I don't know, but they're also, moving the tasbih beads, right? Well, don't use a plastic one at least. Use a turba one. Because of this hadith, it says, Man adara al-hajar min turbat al-Husayn fastaghfara bihi marra كتب الله له 70 times. وَإِنْ أَمْسَكَ الصُّبْحَ بِيَا. If this person is holding it, وَلَمْ يُسَبِّحْ فَفِي كُلِّ حَبَّةٍ مِنْهَا 7 مرات. So if I'm saying dhikr multiplied by 70, istighfar. If I'm not saying anything, I'm holding it, multiply each bead by 7. Those people who are big on math. 7. Multiply each one by 7. Okay? So this is with the turba. You see, this is what I was talking about last night. When we say, okay, Allah's will, Allah has willed this. Well, how is He going to make it big? With these things. Who else can do this? If the whole entire world comes to us and says, you know what? The dust from Dallas is special. We're not going to care. Alright? We're not going to care. Why? It's if Allah says it, we know, okay, this is going to really happen. There's something in it here. And He's promising us these things. And finally, his ziyarah, the shrine of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. There are 2 hadiths here. Let me see if I can go through both or if I can have to just go through one of them. It says that, this is just one hadith of many hadiths, and you've heard both of them, I think, because they're very famous. That there are 4,000 angels عند قبر الحسين. 4,000 angels next to the grave of Hussein. شعث غبر. Disheveled and dusty. Of course, it's figurative because angels don't have bodies, but it's just illustrating for us the state of these angels. يَبْكُونَهُ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. Weeping for him until the day of judgment. So those who go to Karbala, yes, they are with the angels. But who cares about the angels when Imam Hussain is there? رئيسهم ملك يقال له منصور. Their head is an angel by the name of Mansur. And so this is the cool part. It says, so a za'ir will not do ziyarah and visit that grave except that they receive this individual. Sometimes you think you're going there, the angels are probably doing their thing, let me do my thing. No. They are opening their arms and wings to you, as if, and welcoming you. And with that will come a lot of blessing. وَلَا يُوَدِّعُهُ مُوَدِّعٌ. And people don't leave Imam Hussain except that these people come to bid them, these angels come to bid them farewell. This person doesn't fall ill except that these angels come and visit that person. This person, when he passes away or she passes away, they come and they do salat over them as well, and so on. So these kinds of things are what keep it alive. And finally, this last hadith, let me go through it very quickly. It says that someone came to Imam al-Sadiq to visit him. They said, okay, go in. He goes in. He says the Imam is praying. So he waits. And then he notices that the Imam, after his prayer, he is doing a dua. So what is he saying? I'm going to read parts of it. He says, O Allah, O Lord, forgive the visitors of the grave of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain, who spend their wealth, those who ready their bodies due to their interest in doing good to us and because of their hope in what is with you of compensation, for keeping good relations with us, and because of the happiness they bring to the heart of your Prophet. I appeal before Allah to grant salawat and forgive them because of their yielding to our commands. In other words, they're going to ziyarah because of us. And because of the anger due to their visit, they cause to our enemies. So it makes the Imam happy. So compensate them on our behalf by being happy with them. Support them in the night and day. Be their deputy in their families and children whom they have left behind. When you leave your family, you go for ziyarah, you're worried. Oh Allah, take care of those families. Accompany them. It goes on and on and on. It reaches this part. So be kind, O Allah, to the faces which the heat of the sun has changed. Back then, yes, no air conditioning. Takes a long time to go for ziyarah. The sun will be beating down on your face when you go. And it will maybe discolor you, disfigure you for a little bit, whatever it is. Oh Allah, have mercy on these faces. Imam Ali, he would do good deeds. He would sometimes, they say, put himself in very hard situations and circumstances. Fire is like blowing from a furnace or something in his face. He says, it's okay, let this be the fire instead of the fire of Jahannam. He's teaching us. Yes, it comes with sacrifice. Jannah comes with sacrifice. Whether it was the Imam making bread for people or whatever it was. Be kind to the faces which the heat of the sun has changed. Be kind to the side of the faces, the cheeks which are turned from side to side over the grave of Abu Abdullah. Yes. You go to Haram. Alhamdulillah, before COVID I got to go once with the Al-Asr group. Man, I was there for hours just putting my face, this cheek, that cheek. You just stand there, you recite poetry to Imam Hussain. What, I mean, be kind to those eyes which have shed tears in sympathy with us. Be kind to the hearts which mourned and felt pain for us. And the Imam goes on and on. It's beautiful. It's the dua of the Imam is beautiful in this regard. I don't want to take your time, brothers and sisters. Imam Hussain and what he did, his story is different because of these and other things that one can think of course. But if I was to bring it down to one or two things, really, it's really the ikhlas. And it is just lining the will up with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we are His followers like this. Not just the ones who say, Labbaik ya Hussain, and then it ends and we go back to our normal lives. Labbaik ya Hussain permeates our lives every day for the whole year, inshallah. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Allah for allowing us. Although I speak for myself here, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy to be up here. But we thank Him for giving us this opportunity. Will we be alive next year for another Arbaeen? God knows. It's a crazy world. One after another, our ulama are dying. Our relatives, friends, people we know. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be here for next year Arbaeen. Zunair, turn that off if you can, please. I don't know if I'm going to be here next year. And so all I know is right now I'm here and I will do dua that, oh Allah, allow me to experience Arbaeen again. In the haram of Imam Hussain, inshallah. Take things back to normal. Anyway, today was Arbaeen. It passes, some have said it was around these days that the caravan of Karbala arrives in Medina. And so let's take our hearts back to Medina where it all began, when the screams of Bibi Fatima were being heard. And now there will be other voices you will hear. You will hear the voices of Zainab when she returns to Medina. It says that Bashir bin Jadlam, he says that Ali ibn al-Hussein stopped the caravan near Medina. They're returning. And he erected the tents before entering Medina. You see, brothers and sisters, he's making a scene already. He's making a big deal already. And he says to me, O Bashir, your father, may Allah have mercy on him, was a poet. Are you also able to recite poetry? I said, yes, O son of the Holy Prophet, I am a poet. The Imam, he says, go to Medina and announce the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. Bashir says, I rode a horse and rushed to enter Medina. When I reached the mosque of the Holy Prophet, I raised my weeping voice and recited that, O people of Medina, Ya Ahla Yathrib la muqama biha lakum. قتل الحسين فدمعي مدرار. O people of Medina, Medina is no longer your place and abode. Hussein has been killed, so weep. If Medina was special, it's because there was one person left, and that was Hussein. So Hussein has been killed, so weep. His bleeding body was left in Karbala, and his holy head was moved on a spear from place to place. Thereafter I said, this is Ali ibn al-Hussein outside of Medina, who's come near with his aunts and sisters. Don't expect Abbas or Ali Akbar anymore. But he's here with his sisters and aunts. I am his messenger informing you of their arrival. It is said that all the ladies and veiled women came out with unveiled faces. They scratched their faces, slapped their cheeks. They wept loudly in mourning. After the death of the Holy Prophet, it was not seen so much weeping and mourning of men and women in the Muslim society. This is the first time happening after the Holy Prophet. People left me, Bashir says. They didn't ask me anything else. They left me and rushed to the outskirts of Medina. I rode my horse after them to reach them. I saw that people had jammed the road and surroundings. So I dismounted. I made my way to Ali ibn al-Hussein. Brothers and sisters, let's see what state Imam Sajjad is in now. It says Imam Sajjad was still in the tent. And he comes out with a handkerchief in hand, wiping his tears. A servant holding a chair behind him puts the chair down. He sits. He was not able to prevent tears rolling down from his eyes. The voice of weeping of men and women filled the whole atmosphere. It's like that place, that piece of earth had become a place of mourning only. So Imam Sajjad wants to speak now. It says that he says, O people, praises for Allah. We have been affected by great hardship and a split in Islam. They have martyred Abu Abdullah alayhi salam and his household and companions. They imprisoned, this is him reciting Masa'ib. They imprisoned his wives and daughters. They have carried his holy head on a spear from place to place. And so this is a calamity unparalleled. O people, now who among you can ever be joyful after this? Or who is able to stop tears rolling from the eye? And who will be stingy in weeping? O people, we were expelled, scattered, and driven off away from cities and villages as if we were slaves. And all this happened to us without any fault or mistake or any harm to Islam on our part. We have not heard such a thing in our predecessors. Imam Sajjad, they say, eventually enters Medina. Everyone is weeping. A city of good and bad memories. A city of Bibi Fatima. A city of her knocking on the doors, begging almost. It's as if she's saying that I can see 50 years from now, Hussein in Karbala, what's going to happen? Don't let this happen. They didn't listen. Good memories of a little Hassan and Hussein in the lap of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's move on to Lady Zainab though. It says that she went to the masjid of the Prophet. She held both sides of the entrance door and called out, Ya Jaddah, inni na'iyatun ilayka akhi al-Hussein. I bring you the bad news of my Hussein. The older daughter of Imam Hussein, it says that she called out to her grandfather, O grandfather, I complain to you what befell us. By Allah, I have not seen anyone more cold-hearted and harsher than Yazid. He was using the stick in his hand to hit the teeth of my father and would say, how do the strikes feel, O Hussein? This caravan left, brothers and sisters, it left Medina for Karbala with shining stars. It returned without those stars. People can figure it out. Abbas on the battlefield, Ali Akbar on the battlefield, Qasim on the battlefield. Where is that 6-month-old though that we were talking about before? Oh, people of Medina, even that was a soldier for Imam Hussein. He tried his best too. He tried to penetrate the hearts of the enemy. It was working, but the arrow didn't let him finish his job. But I want to talk one last thing, and that is the meeting of Zainab and al-Baneen. al-Baneen, they say that she met next to the grave of the Holy Prophet. She met Bibi Zainab. Where are my sons? Your sons were killed. Where's Hussain? Hussain was killed, they say, upon hearing about the death of Hussain. She raised her two hands and struck herself in the head. Do that for your sons. Why do you do that for Hussain? Everything for Hussain, she says. And so she would go to the Baqi' after that, they say, from that day on, reciting poetry. La tad'uwinni wayki al-banin tudhakkirini bil-youth al-arini. Woe unto you, do not call me al-Banin anymore, for you remind me of the lions of my thicket. I raised them. I used to have sons I would be called by. Al-Banin means mother of the sons. But today I no longer have any sons. 4 sons like falcons of the mountains who met death with their necks' veins being cut, the spears piercing them from all sides, which brought all of them down to the ground. She's reciting this poetry when she goes to Baqi'. But she ends with this: I wish I could know, is it true that they say my Abbas's right arm was severed? Someone tell Bibi Banin, Bibi, it wasn't one arm, it was 2 arms. He tried his best on his horse coming back from that water. Coming back, they struck his first arm, it's off. The second one, it's okay. Abbas, his life is in the water sack. The water is the blood of his heart. As he's making his way back to the tents, the arrow sits on this water sack. What does Abbas do? No arms to fight, no water sack to look in the eyes of Bibi Sakina. Someone help him. The iron rod, they say, comes down on the head of Abbas. No arms to break the fall. Face first with an arrow in his eye onto the hot sands of Karbala. Abbas didn't just lose one arm, he lost everything. Let's not talk about why his grave is smaller than the rest. They mutilated his body. Don't tell Banin what happened to her son, the moon of Banu Hashim. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimeen. I'm going to end with these lines of poetry that I spoke about in the beginning. It says, Ya dam zawafa ya ashja'un nas ayat. Ya dam zawafa ya ashja'un nas ayat. Vaz chashm taram sude almas ayat. It says, I remember the loyalty of the most courageous of all people. As I remember him, my eyes from them fall tears of diamond dust. Ayad bijahan agar Hussain digari, hayhat baradari chu Abbas ayad. If there's another Hussain that will come, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, never, never will a brother like Abbas ever come. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
Brothers Mahdi and Hadi Qitulbash and Brother Taha Ali Mamdani for the recitation of Naha, please.
Hussain, Ya 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 Hussain. बाजार के मंजर को और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं अपने बंधे हाथों को, बीमार के जेवर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं उठती हुई आंधी को, वहशत को बयाबां को, छुपते हुए सूरज को, तारीकी ये मैदान को, चलते हुए खंजर को, नेज़े पे तेरे सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर, भूली नहीं मैं लहराते हुए नेज़ा, है शिमर का वो बढ़ना, आके मेरे पीछे हर बीबी का वो छुपना, शोलों में घिरे घर को छिनती हुई चादर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं जिस रात में तन्हा थी, उस रात के ढलने को, टूटे हुए नेज़े को, उस रात के पहरे को, बच्चों के सिसकने को, और खाक के बिस्तर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं याद आता है एक माँ का वो खाक में धस जाना, और आग के शोलों में एक माँ का झुलस जाना, जलते हुए झूले से लिपटी हुई मादर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं फ़िज़ा को मेरा भाई माँ कह के बुलाता था, दम उसका मेरे भाई के नाम पे जाता था, रुतबे में जो माँ बन कर आई उसी मादर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, और अपने खुले सर को भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के मंजर को, भूली नहीं मैं मासूम सकीना को, बढ़ते हुए नेज़ों को, रिसते हुए गालों को, बेरहम तमाचों को, रिसते हुए कानों को, खिंचते हुए गौहर को, भूली नहीं मैं बाजार के।
Hussain, Tarallah 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 walking on a knife edge to he who gave his head. I walk with tears in my eyes, walking to you. What's pain, your Zainab? Walked in chains of feet, don't you complain, walk on. Am I worthy to call your name? Do you even know who I am? My deeds have me veiled from you, my Mawla. You are in a whole different realm. Prayers on you rain like the rain. I am but a mist in the rain outside. My tears, I lost count my years. They don't count my tears. I lost count my years. They don't count if I fail to shout and wail. Tarallah Hussain, Tarallah Hussain. Hussain, Tarallah Hussain, Tarallah Shaheed Karbala Mahaze, Humala Tera Gham Dil mein hai Mawla, Gharib Karbala Qatile Naina wa Zaif Ashura Mawla, Tere gham mein gham zada mere dil ki hai buka safar, Tere gham mein mera Mawla, nazar tere dar pe rakun hai, qadamon ki sada dikhe mujhe roza tera Mawla. Meri हसरत है जबी जब रकदूं मैं तेरी, चौकत से उठे ना सर मेरा करार, आ जाए मुझे भी तारल्लाह हुसैन, तारल्लाह हुसैन, हुसैन, तारल्लाह हुसैन, तारल्लाह.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة، السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام على أخي الحسين أبي الفضل العباس وأخته الحوراء زينب. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء ومعين الضعفاء والفقراء، أيها الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان، الأمان الأمان من فتن الزمان، عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك. السلام عليكم جميعا.